Welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast
with Garrett Williamson.
Health, wellness, exercise, nutrition, and a whole lot more. Got questions? Call us and leave a message at 251-278-EDGE or message us at Personal Edge Fitness on Facebook and Instagram, at Team PE on Twitter, or personaledgefitness.com.
Hey, this is Garrett Williamson, and welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. Today we're talking about weight loss. We're actually talking about the truth of weight loss. That's something we deal with a lot. I see a lot. I'm sure that you're not immune to the fact that I deal with a lot of weight loss, or we see a lot of weight loss in the health industry. But I wanted to get into the show and actually talk to people about what the truth is about weight loss, what weight loss really is, what it takes, what it means, and what everybody's really after, kind of the truth about it. If you have any comments or questions about this show, please don't hesitate to contact us at our phone line, which is 251-278-EDGE. That's 251-278-3343. Now, that's a voicemail. But don't think twice calling us, leaving your name and leaving your comment or question for the show, and I'll look forward to get back in touch with you. So either a question about this show or any of our others. You can also contact me via my Twitter account, which is at Team PE. That's at Team PE. Via email, Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. That's also our website, personaledgefitness.com, and our Facebook page, Personal Edge Fitness. And as always, I remind you, please, if you like the content, please like and share the podcast. Thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us today talking about weight loss. Now, I talked about in a previous podcast, I talked about the number one killer, what I call the number one killer. If you get a chance, you can go back and listen to that one. Now, they say that number one killer is actually heart disease. Well, actually, the number one killer happens to be obesity. And the reason being is that obesity is the number one cause for several of the top 10 killers in the U.S. That's why I think it's so important. It's also a reason why we have so many people come to see us for weight loss. But how is it done? How is weight loss done every single time? I'll tell you that. It's interesting. It's the same result every time. It's done. The same thing happens as far as weight loss control every single time. Believe it or not, there's one factor that is involved in all weight control. And how do we keep it from experiencing again? That's probably the biggest question. You know, once you've lost the weight, how do you keep from experiencing it again? And how do we keep future generations from experiencing the same thing? Now, that's a lot. I know that's a heck of a lot. I'm going to try to get to all of it in the show, but here we go. I'm talking about weight loss. And I started off with a number a minute ago. 75% of the people that come to see us at Personal Edge Fitness come to see us for weight loss. Now, we do everything in fitness and sport that's not illegal, immoral, or fattening. We've taught a few folks to walk again. We even have several scholarships to our name. But the main reason why people come at all ages is for weight loss. That's the largest reason we're in business. In fact, it's a reason there's a $72.7 billion business is weight loss. In 1960, this was not the focus. Believe it or not. As far as health and wellness is concerned, the focus really was not weight loss. It was an idea and something that people did deal with, but it wasn't the focus. The birth of fitness actually began in around 1955. That's when we started seeing heart disease. We started studying heart disease. And the reason we studied it is because a very famous individual happened to have a heart attack. A celebrity had a heart attack. I've talked about this in previous podcasts. A very popular individual had a heart attack. And when a celebrity has an event like that, it's a major tragedy. And if you don't believe so, then please Google gluten-free and Elizabeth Hasselbeck somewhere around 2009. When it happens to a celebrity, believe me, it's a major tragedy. Eisenhower had heart disease, had a heart attack. The nation was so impressed with him. He was a war hero. He was president at the time. He was enjoying 80-something% popularity. He had this heart attack, and everybody thought he was in fantastic shape, incredible. His heart disease, believe it or not, his heart attack set us up for what eventually became the food pyramid, because a biochemist by the name of Ansel Keys was who they tagged with the responsibility of finding out why heart disease is a problem, what causes heart disease, and he had surmised heart disease was caused by red meat, or I should say high saturated fat. That's when the first time we ever criminalized a food was because of the studies that Ansel Keys put out. And there's a lot of information about that. I'll be doing a show on that and why a lot of that was completely wrong. It caused a lot of the problems that we're experiencing, which the food guide pyramid actually did. The incidence of obesity started to soar after the food guide pyramid came out, and we criminalized saturated fat. We started coming out with quote-unquote heart-healthy diets. And if you look on the side of a lot of cereal cereal boxes today, you can still see listings for it. It's a heart-healthy food because it supposedly lowers your cholesterol. That's based on the cholesterol theory, which, again, has never been proven. I won't go down that road too much, but that's when the epidemic of obesity started and why we're seeing that as a problem now. That's why in 1960, 57, 60, this area, the main focus for health, wellness, and fitness happened to be heart disease, not weight loss. In fact, Dr. Kenneth Cooper, you've heard me mention several times on this podcast. Dr. Kenneth Cooper happens to be my hero. He is the father of fitness, and he started a longevity study in 1969. He wrote the book Aerobics. It flipped the medical world on its head as far as making recommendations about health, wellness, and fitness, because the medical establishment at the time were telling people over the age of 40, it was time basically to quit. They told them to basically take naps on a regular basis, always live on first floor apartments, don't live on second floor apartments, take naps on a regular basis, don't walk a whole lot, basically slow down and die as far as I'm concerned. Dr. Cooper, who's an MD, also has a master's in public health. He was a flight surgeon in the Air Force. I always bring that up because something I'm very proud of. My father was a flight surgeon in the Air Force also. But Dr. Cooper said do the exact opposite. He said people need to get up and get moving. They need to exercise on a regular basis. And in fact, don't just walk, run. In fact, don't just run. In my book, I'll show you, here's a fitness program for starting a running program. People called him a quack, called him a kook until his longevity study came out in 1969, which has been going on for years now, and actually proven that exercise, of course, makes you live longer. That was all based off of heart disease, though. That wasn't based off of weight loss. And as I said, the food guide pyramid and those kind of thoughts are what drove our obesity epidemic. Sorry, that's a lot of backstory on how we got to this whole obesity problem, where fitness started and what have you. But now the focus is weight loss. And as I said earlier, it is a $72.7 billion business. Well, quite frankly, I'm in that business, obviously. So it's in every breath we take. You hear about it. News media, you hear about it. And all kinds of research going on about finding the magic pill for weight loss or what causes, weight gain and these kind of things. So foods, oh my gosh, have we gone crazy with the different types of foods that supposedly promote weight loss. So exercise, obviously, a big part of it. So you hear celebrities getting involved in weight loss control, weight loss programs. We see this in our military. It is weight gain and obesity has affected the requirements we use for people getting into the military because many people couldn't get into the military because of it. Years ago, when I was at Parris Island, I was watching a relative of mine graduate from boot camp, Parris Island, and he was talking about the fact that he and his best friend went through boot camp together, and they were in two totally different programs. His friend was a little bit larger, and he was in what he called the Jenny Craig program because they had everybody over a certain weight involved in that program. They were trying to get them in shape, and he looked completely different than what I saw when he went in. And the reason they started that is because of the obesity epidemic and how much people had gained weight. So we see that in military, government, faith. In alcohol, we've got skinny alcohols and what have you. And of course, in healthcare, it's a large part about it, which is why I wanted to do this podcast on weight loss and tell you the truth. As usual, most of the information is completely distorted. The answer has been obscured, usually because we're trying to hawk or sell something, or we're trying to criminalize something, or whatever. A lot of ways of misleading people, a lot of reasons to mislead people. But the answer is a bit obscured. One of the first places it starts is, believe it or not, a metabolism. Well, I'm sure I shouldn't say believe it or not because that's easy to believe that it starts with the idea of metabolism. And I talked about this in one of my episodes talking about metabolism. We've complicated what that word means. We've gone off the rails on metabolism, and it's some kind of strange mystery, and we need to put a lot of research into it to find out what metabolism is and what happens in metabolism and what exactly. It's absurd. It's very simple. It's calories in, calories out. That's it. That's what metabolism is. We eat food. Your body breaks down tissue, builds more tissue back. It spends energy, and we get rid of the waste that we don't need. That's metabolism. It's very simple. That's one of the things we've done is we've complicated simple ideas like metabolism, which has caused a lot of the weight problems and what weight loss really is. If you control calories in, calories out, you're going to control weight. If you take in more calories than you expend, you're going to gain weight, period. Today, tomorrow, forever. Every age, doesn't matter. Take in more calories than you expend, you're going to gain weight, period. If you take in the same amount of calories that you expend, you're going to stay the same weight, period. End of story. If you take in less calories than you expend, you're going to lose weight. That's how it works. It's very, 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 very simple. Though I'm still going to talk for another 18 minutes or so to get in depth about it, but that's basically what that is. And you'll hear ridiculous ideas that all calories aren't the same and what have you. Yeah, when it comes to weight control, yeah, they are. They really are. On that subject, and I'm sure that you may be saying, or somebody's saying out there, well, what about muscle and fat? One's heavier than the other. Not true. You know what that means? Everybody taking some water. We're always drinking when you hear that sound. I want everybody to stay hydrated. And it seems like every single subject I talk about has something to do with water, and weight control and weight loss has a lot to do with water. We're going to get into that in just a minute. But back to the misinformation out there. One of the things that people say is that muscle is heavier than fat. It's not true. Muscle is more dense than fat. You know, I can easily ask you, what weighs more, a ton of feathers or a ton of lead? And it's an old joke because a ton is a ton. And that's exactly what we're saying when we're talking about muscle and fat. That muscle, a pound of muscle weighs just as much as a pound of fat. The only thing is that a pound of muscle takes up about, a 5-inch by 2-inch by about 3-inch section. Okay? Whereas a 5 pounds of fat takes up 10-inch by 5-inch by 4-inch section. It takes up a lot more space. It's more porous. It's got more air in it. Therefore, it takes up quite a bit of space. We've talked about this in one of my shows before when I talked about the client of mine that dropped 2.5 dress sizes. She dropped 2.5 dress sizes and she only lost 7 pounds. And the way she did that was that she lost a lot of fat, gained a lot of muscle, but she only lost 7 pounds of weight. And that's because of how much space fat takes up. Okay, we've talked about metabolism a little bit, what metabolism is. We've talked about the difference between muscle and fat and what that is and whatever weight is. But one thing I want to talk about is how we gain weight. Now, you probably know if I overeat, I'm going to gain weight. Yes, of course, like I was talking about metabolism. But think about it. We color that so many different ways, and we add things, strange things to it, like age. Age causes us to gain weight. Well, it doesn't. Time passing on a calendar doesn't cause such things. Got any problems with that? Please check out my series on the law of aging. And it talks about what actually causes degeneration we associate with age. One of my favorite quotes from Dr. Kenneth Cooper happens to address that exact subject about age and fat. He said, if you look at body fat, it seems to increase with age, even though your weight does not. That's not a physiological fact of aging. It's an adaptive effect of aging. Now, the reason I bring that up is to dispel that myth about time on the calendar causing us to gain weight, which is absolutely absurd. In fact, my producer was just reminding me about this. If you look at old pictures, black and white photos or whatever, you don't see a whole lot of people that are obese. You don't see a lot of people that are overweight. You see some, but not that many. And if you'll notice that, like I said earlier, a lot of that changed right around 1955. Right around where we started criminalizing food, we started to find the good things and bad things to eat and what have you. And it was right around that same time that we came up with the food guide pyramid and we changed our whole thinking about food. That's when our obesity epidemic started to go through the roof. If I were to ask you, why do we have childhood obesity? What's the cause of that? What's the reason we have that? Well, we've talked about that before. And the two causes are the fact that, they're eating too much. A lot of people say junk food, but junk food's been around for years. That's not what I'm talking about. But they will say that kids are eating too much food. And they're video games. They're sitting at home. They're not outside. They're not active and what have you. So basically what causes childhood obesity is lack of activity and too many calories. Well, go back to my definition of metabolism. Too many calories in, not enough calories out. Well, that's what causes childhood obesity. But like I say in my talks, no, not us. No, can't be us. No, ours is because a number changed on a calendar. It's kind of absurd, is it not? All right, well, how do we go about this? How do we go about attacking or controlling weight loss or making weight loss happen? So, first thing, we need to get a point of where we are. And I'm talking about weight. Weight is the gravitational pull of the earth on your body. It's not really a measurement of fitness, but it's a good thumbnail sketch. We use it here. We use it in our Catalyst Lifestyle program. We actually have people checking their weight. We actually weigh people in. It's a good general idea of where you stand because you can see changes day to day, week to week, what have you, in that. So that's something you should know. BMI is not bad. It's a little more advanced, a measurement, but it's still a comparative thing. It's not scientific, I guess you'd say. But what I would recommend, like I said in the number 1 killer episode, and that is, measuring your body fat. Find out how much body fat do you have in your body and where's your percentage lie? And are you in a healthy range? And we'll start there. So find out where you are first. And the second thing is that we're looking at controlling two different things that affect us, calories in, calories out. So obviously we're going to look at nutrition. We're going to look at diet. And diet, like Garfield said, diet is die with a T. Remember, diet is nothing more than an eating program. Simple. Everybody's on some sort of diet. If you're not eating at all, you believe it or not, you're on a diet. It is a diet that has no food in it, but that's a diet. Eating way too much, that's a diet. That's the food program. But the diets that I'm speaking about, of course, are different gimmicks out there. And I'm careful using that word gimmick because it's not really a bad word. I'm not meaning that as a bad connotation. Gimmicks can be handy. I have a gimmick. I have a fantastic gimmick I've been using since 1999. I'm looking at it right now. And it happens to be my water bottle. My water bottle's got rubber bands on it. And why does it have rubber bands on it? Well, that's how I track how much water I drink. That's a gimmick. It's great. Fantastic. There's a lot of gimmicks out there as far as diets are concerned. In fact, I'm looking at several of them right now. Several of the very popular ones in years gone by. You have your Dr. Atkins Diet Revolution, the one that had people eating bacon but not eating carbohydrates. You got Dr. Gott's no flour, no sugar diet. You've got Sugar Busters. You've got South Beach. You've got keto. You've got all kinds of intermittent fasting. You've got all kinds of, and they're gimmicks. Again, remember, that's not a bad thing. You may find a gimmick that works for you. The rubber band from a bottle, it's a gimmick that works for me. I like that. It's a good trick. But what's interesting about all of these is typically all these diets, all these programs out there, they do something I don't like. And that is they'll typically criminalize a food. And as I said earlier, when we started doing that in 1955, that's actually what brought on obesity. And as I said earlier, I'm not a fan of criminalizing food because, like I said, that's where this whole problem began of obesity, when we started criminalizing food and came up with the food guide pyramid and started going kind of crazy with the whole food problem. And so all of these gimmicks, all these diets actually typically criminalize a food. But what you need to know about all of these gimmicks, what's very interesting about all of them is they all have one thing in common. As I said at the beginning of this show, I talked about something that's done every single time as far as a diet's concerned. It's done every single time you get involved in weight loss. And you have something happen that's called caloric control. That's the one thing that's common in every single diet program out there. Every single diet program out there that has that its goal is to make you lose weight. It has caloric control. And the reason it has that goes back to my whole discussion I had about metabolism. Metabolism is nothing more than calories in, calories out. That's how you lose weight. Now, as far as controlling body fat and actually increasing muscle while you're losing fat, yes, you can balance out weight that way. But if you're looking at a large excess, a large amount of weight, a large amount of body fat in your body, typically you can eyeball it with weight, like I said earlier. And you can have weight fluctuations like I told you my client that lost 7 pounds but dropped 2.5 dress sizes. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about losing weight, you're talking about caloric control. Now, there's another part of this. Obviously, exercise. And I bring up the nutrition side of it because the best way to not be obese is to first thing, don't put too much food in the first place. But the other side of that is exercise. And I always tell people that, and I'm in the exercise business, I sell exercise, but you're not ever going to out-exercise your overeating. And the reason being is that we have people come to us for weight loss. Like I say, 75% of the people come to us for weight loss. And something we address with everybody that comes in is the fact that if they're not tracking what they're eating, that not so much the amounts that they're eating, then they're eating to what we call a point of satiety. They're eating to a point of, hey, I'm done. That's it. I've had enough. And I feel like I've had enough. Well, if you're exercising, you add exercise to your program, and you're eating to a point of satiety, then I'm going to move that point. Your exercise program is going to move that point. Even if it's a bad exercise program, you're still going to be burning more calories, figuratively. You're going to be burning more calories than you were before. Actually, not just figuratively, but literally, you're going to be burning more calories even if it's a bad program. So now since calories in, calories out, remember what I was saying about metabolism. What has happened is I've moved that point of satiety. I've moved that point of, hey, I'm done. I've had enough. I'm finished. I'm full. And that point has now moved. And by moving that point, what happens if you eat to a point of satiety, you're going to eat up to that point that I've moved your caloric expenditure to. And I've had plenty. We see this all the time. Oh, I'm not eating any more than I used to. Physically impossible. Physically impossible. If you've added exercise to a program, you're adding caloric expenditure, burning calories to a program, and you're not either dropping body fat or weight, then most likely you're adding calories. It's almost impossible not to be. So what I would advise anybody that starts an exercise program is that what works on paper, believe it or not, and I'm going to tell you how to put this into reality, but if I were to take let's say somebody's got a quote-unquote bad diet, they're eating way too much, but they're not exercising. If I were to take that person that's eating too much, that's not exercising, I don't care what they're eating, but I were to make that amount, somehow be able to control that amount. They're eating way too much. Let's say they're eating 3,000 calories a day and they should be eating 2,000. All right, if I kept them at 3,000, same food, same everything, we just did not change. Every single day it stayed that amount. But I added more calories burned. I added more exercise to it. I increased their amount of exercise expenditure. Then even though they don't change their diet whatsoever, they would lose weight. True. All I have to do is I have to out-expend the 3,000 calories they're taking in. Now, the problem is that typically doesn't happen. So what I recommend doing getting into a weight loss program. And the problem that we have with a lot of people, the problem that the fitness world experiences is in January, the second most popular New Year's resolution, of course, is to lose weight. And so a lot of people dive headfirst into the program. They change their diet, they change their exercise, they change their lifestyle, they change everything. That lasts for about 2.5 weeks, because developing that many habits to that volume in that short amount of time is very difficult. Trying to keep that up for 21 days to make it a habit, or 66 days to make it a lifestyle change, is very difficult. So if you're going to add exercise, then do this very simple thing. Just track your calories. Figure out before you start exercising, how many calories am I burning? And keep it there. You can do that through a simple app, MyFitnessPal. You can measure your food, input your food there, and even if it's too much, measure it. Measure it for a week or so before you start exercising. Know where you are. Then make sure you stay at that amount. You stay at that amount, you'll lose weight, period. Control the amounts to control the weight. It's pretty simple. I didn't go very in-depth in this. I don't feel like I went too in-depth in this, because weight loss really is very easy. It's why we overeat that we need to be concerned about. It's why we binge. It's why we want to why our brains want to take in more calories, which is why we gain too much weight. And that's actually a topic for another show. We've talked a little bit of that during cravings, but it's something I want to deal with in another episode, because it gets into the mental side of why we have difficulties with this, why we have an obesity epidemic. And I keep saying it's not because of the food. I promise you, the food never did anything wrong. We don't need to put it in jail. It didn't rob anybody. It didn't steal anything from you. The food's not what's wrong. It's us. And we need to get that under control. This is Garrett Williamson reminding you to seek your level of wellness. Good day.
Thanks for listening to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast with Garrett Williamson. Subscribe now and be a part of the show by calling 251-278-EDGE or message us on Facebook and Instagram at Personal Edge Fitness or at Team PE on Twitter, and visit us at personaledgefitness.com.